Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next chapter within our live series, The Roundtable. I'm Ahmed Simeen, and a specialist in AI, ML, and data engineering contractors for the US enterprises and financial services, and I'll be our host for the episode today. With me, I have four senior leaders within the AI space, all from experienced backgrounds and have been exposed to AI in their own way. First of all, we have Harry Wang, Peter Coffey, Srinath Nagarajan, and Vyette Bailey. I'll let everyone, of course, introduce themselves now. So can we start with Harry?
Hi, my name is Henry. I'm the Director of Analytics for the Fifth. I've been with the financial services 20 plus years. I've been in the I start with from this quant, and then from there I go to the asset management, and then later on go to the become the risk model risk management. Currently, I lead the environment innovation app for the bank, and we are doing the agentic AI platform in order to shape and transform our regulatory process to the automated and autonomy type of process for the model lifecycle management. Yep. Thank
Perfect.
you. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. No. I'm glad to have you as well. Next, we have Peter Coffey.
Yeah, hi everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Ahmed. So 25 plus years in financial services predominantly. I've consulted across Wall Street, broker dealers, you name the company, I probably consulted there. I've also held industry executive positions at Morgan Stanley and LPL. Most currently, I'm with DXC Technology, and we are helping shape the future for many companies. And specifically, this hot topic today is how to leverage AI. So I'm happy to be part of the panel. Thanks again for inviting me. I'm looking
No,
forward to
no
it.
worries.
Okay, Mom, I realized I did another
Um,
part of
we're glad to have you
the
here.
thing wrong.
Now for you, Sri.
Hey, folks, again, absolutely happy to be here. My name is Nagarajan. I've been in financial services for about 25 plus years. From an AI perspective, I've been a practitioner and a product builder since around 2018. So that's way before I think Gen AI arrived and AI became a cool word. From a background perspective, I've spent most of my career the convergence of strategy, product, and commercialization. And my area of focus, both on the professional side and on the personal research side, is how do you use AI for human good, right? There's significant amount of assets, including information that's available two or less clicks away. And my vision and hope is that we as humanity are going to use AI to solve fundamental needs so that the world is a much better place. So that's my area of passion.
Yeah, no, we hope for that to happen, of course, as well. Thank you for that. And now we have Vyette Bailey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Vyette Bailey. I'm coming to you from Connecticut. Thank you for having me here on this esteemed panel. My background essentially is about 20 years in financial services. I started my career as an attorney in Australia in IP and technology law. I've spent last 15 years or so at American Express in New York in various government, in various functions, but primarily enabling marketing and new products to go to market. And more recently, I'd say 2018 as well, with the beginning of that, like with AI and chatbots, and continuing on to where we are now today. So I really help kind of develop and establish governance structures to get these products and partnerships out to market in a compliant fashion, leveraging the new technologies that we have today. So very excited to kind of be part of the panel and to share more.
No worries, no worries. Thank you for that, Via. We're glad to have you as well, and of course, hear your thoughts. So in general, of course, our roundtable will be about sort of operational AI in financial services. Of course, all have a background from financial services in itself, from different paths and different roads. And we'll be going through sort of key questions that we want to understand from, of course, using operational AI in general for financial services. So first of all, I will start with Harry. But in general, how do you feel that AI has impacted operations and strategy within financial services so far?
I think they already have some impact and also already have some effects there. Since the 2 years ago, the OpenAI released their GPT model and releases ChatGPT. So then right now, I think from financial services, all the company they already have those type of they're either they directly use the ChatGPT or with the private cloud by themselves, or otherwise they have a contract with a different company to introduce their own the chat type of the bot, right, for them. So for this, and I think everybody also encounter a lot of company, no matter big and small one maybe not that quick, but for the big one company, they also have some requirement for each employee. They have to start that to improve their day-to-day the personally the work. So this is just for the employee level. I think a lot of a company, maybe they already start, or maybe for the past several months, we are talking about a lot about agentic AI proof of concept, right? So those companies also start for the agentic AI because that's a different layer for the enterprise level. So yeah.
Oh, fair enough. No, I completely understand from that perspective. How about you, Pio? How do you feel that sort of impact operations strategy in general within financial services so far, especially with your background and sort of coming from finance and consulting? I'm sure you've seen it from different pathways and different routes.
Yeah, no, I'll be brief here. I mean, I think the question's enlightening, but
Yeah.
what we're seeing. Listen, here's what we're seeing, right? Like from a consulting angle, I've worked at many consulting companies, from EY, Capgemini, and some more boutique companies. Listen, clients are asking, especially around operations, how do we do more with less, right? So when I look to my clients to say, what can we solve, or what are the problems that you're dealing with now? It's how to take cost out rapidly. That's the mission. So if you look at the big banks like JPMC, you look at Citi, they're all saying, do more with less, right? So if you look at vendors, I know we're going to talk about vendors throughout this conversation, but if everybody's familiar with Devon and Windsurf, these are two partnerships we've developed with other companies, and it's around how can we take cost out? We want to do more with less. So we want to take things that would take one superhuman, right, and bring them a team of AI capabilities with Devon, for example, and do more with less. So if we're doing a project with Devon, for example, and they have great use cases and studies around two big banks, right? One was focused on basically a COBOL remediation and basically changing the character set, which would have been a monumental effort if you didn't have AI to help you. So, we basically, with that type of example, we took cost out in the millions of dollars for this particular client, and we were able to accelerate velocity from 7 months to 2 months, right? So that's one use case, right? And then, similarly with like ETL and extraction, and at another client, it was a big bank in Brazil. It was like, okay, same kind of thing. How can we do this with more with less? So I think the theme that we're seeing in the industry right now is take costs out and use AI to do that. Whether pick your favorite tool, your platform, but that's the mission, right? That's kind of my quick synopsis on that topic.
No, fair enough. It definitely makes sense, especially with all corporations, right? Like they want to sort of make the most of what they have. So I completely understand from that perspective. And do you see the same thing on your side, Sri?
Well, I see a slightly different angle. Again, it's not that cost optimization doesn't exist. That absolutely does, right? And a number of firms are absolutely starting with that as either their first use case or one of the first few. The parts that I see and the area that I'm involved in typically are involved around brands that want to redefine their value proposition in the industry, right? So these are brands and experiences that say, here is a generational opportunity to redefine what financial access, inclusion, and independence means. Right now, that then translates to a whole bunch of new products, new solutions, new kinds of interfaces that take advantage of both what I call traditional AI and the new generative AI, so that you are offering a whole slew of new experiences that arguably could not have been done, right? Even 6 months or a year ago, right? So that's one. two, I also see forward-looking brands use this as an opportunity to say, can I get into new vectors of needs that historically I may not have had the right to play? For example, partnerships between banks and healthcare companies, partnerships between financial services companies and retail companies, because now um, it's it's just more natural. You're able to envision and then actually make that happen, right? Again, there's a whole slew of examples we can talk about, but to me, those are the two areas that I'm most passionate about, which is looking at how brands are redefining the value and then truly executing on that promise to the customers they serve.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I would say, yeah, no, fair enough. That definitely makes sense, especially when you see it from a different perspective. No, that definitely makes sense. And what about you, Vyette?
I would agree with what Sri said. I mean, I think using AI and the technology to be a differentiator to get into different markets and to partner and is an area that that I've seen, my clients also push, right? But in the areas where it's repetitive and the first kind of use cases with cost cutting, that's like the low hanging fruit. But to get to the low hanging fruit, I think you need to also, train employees, right, to understand how to use these tools so that they're doing it in a way that's safe, like secure for the company, right? And they're following the same guardrails, regardless of which function they're in, either they're in finance, or they're in fraud, they're in AML, they're in strategy. So how do we actually leverage these tools, right, to be like aids for them to be more productive, right, as individuals and employees, but then and like control that risk, but then also on the other side, which is that product enablement, marketing enablement, and personalization. How do we push the needle to differentiate like big players in the market to like get in with the consumer base, like different consumer and prospects, right? Maybe in the B2B space or generationally that they haven't had a chance to kind of tap into before. And I think leveraging these different partnerships across industries is where I think that you've seen that acceleration. So I've seen it in different areas. Another area, audit, right? You can automate a lot of these audit functions, but you still need a real person to actually look at it critically, right? And then say, okay, how does all this come together, right? And is what's spitting out by like three different, platforms even making any sense, right? Is it pulling in the right data? Is it hallucinating? So all those different rules need to be put in place, I think, institutionally, like from an enterprise level. And then I think you're able to, I think different parts of the organization are probably like further along than others, but I do think it's not the same for every team and every company exactly, right? So and I think that's something that needs to be properly emphasized in terms of the security and then safety as well as you kind of roll out these technologies.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's all about utilization, right? So it definitely makes sense in that regard. Okay. And maybe sticking with you, Vyette, I'm gonna ask in regards to sort of what from, of course, like the impact that you've seen in general, what would you say is the AI or sort of MLOps platform in general tech stack that you've sort of seen that's driven meaningful change within the industry in general?
I think, Azure, like compliance ready technology, like platforms, I think Databricks for kind of unifying data, garbage in, garbage out, right? So how do you clean that data, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of really like a key area. I've also seen, but more conservative in the legal field as well. Like so as you think about like more standard form contracts, how do you get to like standardize? How do you use like legal departments use technology like AI to help with research and development, but also again have that human eye. So those are the areas where I've seen some real progress, I think.
No, fair enough. And what about you, Harry? Is that the same case for you and your sort of experience that you've seen, or maybe is there any different platforms in general that you've seen that maybe impacted you, the industry that you worked in the most? Harry, I think you're muted.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, it's because I think everybody have a different line. I say different line is, for example, Peter is a consulting, and Sharad is in the production, in the products, and that is in legal or maybe compliance perspective. For me, is from model risk management perspective. So actually, I'm more likely is more targeted on all the operational stuff. So for us, for those kind of platform is a different situation. What's a different situation? For example, for when I designed my agentic platform, I have to rely on all the, no matter is the parameter type of the model, for like from OpenAI or AWS or something, or from the cloud or some. And I also need to rely on a lot of open weighted type of model, because it depends on the situation, my data sensitivity. So then I have to design everything together in order. But the one thing I want to say is also respond to the everybody's talk here is all about your case, the case driven, and based on your situation. And when we built the situation, no matter is the traditional AI ML, and right now we are on. Last year we were talking about generative AI. This year we are talking about genetic AI. So looks like the term is changed, but the ultimate goal is the same. Is we try to make the productivity all higher, and in the meantime try to free our time, right? So I always told the people, say, in the future we don't need to work in 5 days, we only need to work 2 days, and our 3 days just go to beach, right? We ask our agent to work for me, right?
That's
we need the agent. Yeah, that's a hope. But actually, last week when I talked with this, somebody told me, "Oh, 20 years ago they talk about the same idea, but right now we feel the same. We actually do more work than we used to think about it." But whatever. But that's a hope. Okay, I agree with you. but the most important thing is no matter what kind the platform we want to use, is target on your purpose of your business case. And in the meantime, you have to build everything on your trust. So you have to trust the system. For example, for us, we have to build all the guardrail agent in order to make our decision. And also all the agent will make sure every agent really generate the appropriate result as what we did. Because of, for example, you say, okay, each agent can give 95% of the accuracy, but if you have like a 10 or 20 agent to work together in a chain, so what's your probability your accuracy will be? Do the math. That's what we're bad, right? So the human actually is a very important part. So the agent will largely, AI will largely replace us. Actually will make human more important. Yeah. So
no, fair enough. I definitely agree. It's based on sort of the use case though, in regards to the impact. Would you say it's also similar to you, Sri? Like, do you believe so in your industry that it's a case by case basis, the impact on sort of maybe specific AI, ML ops, or machine learning tools in general, or would you say there's a specific one?
Yeah, I just want to echo something that we heard from Harry, right? Which is some of the core constructs around the explainability, around model risk management, around the core governance structures, those have existed. I will argue that in financial services, especially, it's not new, right? In the world of predictive AI, it was about prediction and optimization, whether it's a fraud model or a loan default model or any of the other thousands of models that we have typically built over the last 20, 30 years, right? Those or more, right? They've had to go largely through the same kind of processes, right? So to me, that is not new. It's when you come to the generative side and now you're saying, I'm going to start taking interpretation and I'm going to take communication and I'm going to now hand that agency with autonomy to a machine and let that be the primary phase of engagement with another human being or another machine. That's when you start going, hold on a second, we have been doing this for I don't know, 50, 60 years. Every time you swipe a card at a point of sale, there is a model at the back end that's trying to figure out, is it a fraudulent use or not, right? That's a simple use case. So when I hear people talk about this being new, almost always it's kind of an anticlimax to say it's not new. What's new about it is the fact that it's now well known and everybody's talking about it. It's not a back office function, so that's obviously a plus. What's new is now people are starting to imagine new kinds of possibilities and new kinds of outcomes. And what is definitely new is the generative component of it, where you are essentially giving up your power and control as a human being, and you're giving that agency to a machine to do its thing. So with all of that, the parts that I'm excited about are typically around any system that unifies your governance, any system that starts to integrate your explainability, that starts helping you go from a concept or a conversation on a PowerPoint or in a room to a working product where the customer says, oh, you know what? You made my life easier. This product now just seems more intuitive. You helped me save more. You helped me protect my money. You helped me with intergenerational wealth transfer. Whatever be the use case, that infrastructure, that operating system, that still exists. So I'll pause with that, and I would love to hear from my other colleagues here what they see in the same space.
Yeah, I'm handing it over to you, Peter.
Yeah, it's a tough act to follow with all that thought collateral there. Yeah, no, I agree with everything everyone said on the panel. I would say a use case that I've been working on is kind of near and dear to me in my world when I was like in industry before. And the tools have evolved since I was working in that space. We had to do a lot of custom code and a lot of custom development. And now tools are out there to help accelerate. So I want to talk a little bit about client onboarding, right? And the theme around bringing new clients on, whether that's banking or in wealth and asset management, right? There's a lot of friction in that process. There's a lot of paperwork, and there's a lot of just like areas where things can break down. So recently what I've been seeing in this particular area is partnering with vendors. I'll drop a few names like Pega, 5cent. Pega's more monolithic, where 5cent's a smaller, nimbler, quicker solution. But what my clients are asking me for is, hey, we want to eliminate the friction. We want to get good quality data into our systems. But from an operations perspective, all that stuff flows into the back office, and now we have to action on bringing new accounts in and so forth. So I see the tools that are cutting edge and bleeding edge. I named a few of those, but then, there's other tools that can be applied. So, use your favorite tool of the day, or if you're a custom shop, which some of the big banks still pride themselves on everything being custom rather than a point solution. That's what I'm seeing. So it's adding velocity, taking friction out. If you think of things like Rocket Mortgage, right, which is way ahead of the curve of where we are now, but it's like, how do I get through what would take me normally a month to get through onboarding process or weeks? How do I get that down to days, right? For example. So that's my build on what we talked about on this subject.
No, fair enough. And to be honest, it follows quite on into another question. Would you say, specifically with these specific sort of AI or machine learning or anything that's being implemented, and of course it's new sort of new day, sort of new age, is there any barriers that you see people or specific companies face when sort of implementing it or scaling it out, so from maybe even pilot to production in general within companies? Maybe, of course, as a consultancy, you probably see in a different aspect compared to even financial services, but you probably see it maybe better than anyone, right?
Yeah, I think on this subject, I'll say this, right? I think what clients are looking for, what the industry is seeking is, you have to have your data in order, right? So you take, in the news lately has been a lot of data around JP Morgan and Citi's partnered with Palantir, right, to clean up their whole data process and really be able to get the right data so that they can drive down and, deliver metrics on that, analytics and decision making and so forth. So I think what firms really in this space in terms of, getting to production, you need to make sure your data is in order, right? Because data is the linchpin for everything. You have to have it in the right source. And if it's real time versus delayed data, that whole ecosystem needs to be solved. Whether you use Databricks, Snowflake, name your favorite solution there, it's about the data. That's the first thing. And I think the second piece of this area is you really need to have evangelists within the firm, right? So you need people that are talking, living, and breathing AI and the good and the benefits of it, because it has, counterbalances as well. which, you know, a lot of people are freaking out and thinking about, hey, I don't want to put myself out of business, especially in the operational space, right? We've moved a lot of things offshore to India and other low cost regions across the world for operations, and then we domestically we did that even by moving, you know, centers of excellence to like places like Utah, Florida versus New York, and that trend continues. But, you know, you have to have those evangelists internally that help you drive your agenda. I would say that. So that's all I have on that topic.
No, fair enough. That definitely makes sense. Vyette, would you say that you see the same sort of barriers, or?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that data is key, right? Whoever wins the war and like being able to clean up their data really quickly, right, and really monetize it, both from a customer perspective, a prospect perspective, and then just the ongoing like managing the life cycle of that customer, right? I think that is key, and I think big companies and the smaller ones are trying to get the data right and through screen grab, but the bigger companies, they've got it. How do they then connect all these different sources so it becomes a single source of truth? It could be with third parties, right? That are coming like that are onboarded at different times with the different master contracts or scopes of work, but they have to be all combined together. So that's, you know, the like clean that data, number one. And you're right about evangelists. I think I've seen a lot of, you know, restructuring right now with my clients where you're restructuring councils and working councils and committees to make sure that there is that level of oversight that comes from top down, right? So you have that kind of like the hero at the front, you know, at the top, but then also explaining it in plain English terms so that you can bring, you know, all these different parts of the organization along, which could be from different disciplines, using the same language, right? Because if you're not using the same language with the same kind of guardrails and principles around your brand and what's important to you, I think that's where you may encounter even more challenges of like smoother implementation and more challenging change management on the people side, right? So there's a people side of change management and there's a technological side. And I think a lot of the change management on the people side is where you have, you know, the hero stories and and like really pioneering thought leaders that you know have both tenure perhaps in the company, but also, you know, bring outside external perspectives in as well to augment that, right? To have that credibility. So I would agree with you wholeheartedly, Peter.
Okay. And this is a specific question more so for you, Vyette, but like, would you say that you've seen any maybe compliance hurdles, especially with the fact that when software implementing it, just
Yeah, absolutely. I think this panel takes a long time sometimes to get stuff to market and product out to market, right? Because there are so many different, you know, parts of the organization that need to approve. So I think from a compliance perspective, how do we actually use AI and you know, to again standardize language in order to improve speed to market? Because if you're not talking the same language, it's really hard to get alignment to get
yeah.
something out the door. So I think from a compliance and risk management perspective, the importance of you know, the taxonomy, what we're talking about, and how we're talking about it as an organization, what's important to us, again, from a principles and brand perspective, those things need to be incorporated as part of the rollout in terms of change management as you adopt these tools and manage like to the compliance and risk and regulators that you have to answer to. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It definitely does. Thank you for that. What about you, Harry? How, in regards to maybe your specific cases, maybe in analytics or anything like that, have you seen any sort of barriers on your side from scaling AI from sort of pilot to production in general, or how does that sort of look on your side?
Yeah, actually, thanks Peter and Wang to talk about that, especially from where you talk about from compliance perspective, right? You say about the people. Well, we are not talk about the same type of language, how they can align with each other, how you go through go to different council, the committee to get approval. When you get those things, then if somebody else, one of person just say, oh no, well, I need to redo it, then go to square one. So actually, this has happened to me. I just want to tell you, this happened to me. So I go through all the process. So the barrier is actually, I think it is because right now we are in the change area, right? So everybody, because it's changed, somebody is cautious about that. Somebody is worried about that. So this is why different people have a different speed, have a different thought, and sometimes from the operational perspective. So for example, if actually what we you have to have a two direction. When I say two direction, is you need to have bottom up for process to help everybody to understand what's going on. So align all your team. I say team is not only your team, everybody from an IT side, from compliance side, from the risk management, everybody become your team member. You work together.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, to a certain degree, you also need a top down. So you have the top down, so the company in the same direction, then everybody can work together. So for me, definitely, I in order for my project to successfully for the certain steps. Actually, I start my project is 2 years ago for the agent AI stage. I'm still in the stage in order to get some certain type of the IT access for me. Okay. It's nothing wrong because everybody is they have a different perspective. They think about what's the what is a better way from their angle. But from my angle, I don't think that's the things we need to worry about. However, we need to go together. So this is why I say from bottom to up, then top down. The both direction we have to be work together. And for right now, after almost 2 years, and also outside the environments change as well, because a lot of I think a lot of bank financial services face a similar situation, and they are kind of like some big company or even some same size of company like us. They are really actively work on this space, and they try to improve their productivity, and no matter is the back office, middle office, even some like a front office, right? So they have all the solution. But however, if you don't do it, you might be behind. And those time period is not like before. The what I mentioned before is a S curve, right? This S curve, the window, the opportunity window is not longer than the before. Maybe only 1 or 2 years. Very short. Very short. Even your project may be like last like 3 to 5 to 10 years, but that opportunity window is shorter. So you have to So sometimes is education is matter as well. So but that education is educating your counterparty, also educating yourself. When I say yourself is how you can ask other people to work with you as a whole team to work together in order to make things happen. No matter it's a bottom up, from top down. Yeah.
No, fair enough. I appreciate that. I definitely agree with that perspective. And do you see the same sort of barriers, Sri, I guess?
100%, right? All of our friends here have spoken about the people side of it, which I would argue is the number one area to focus on, right? To me, when I have these discussions, both within the construct of the work I do and in the personal side, what I do in my academic or in my research world, it's sometimes I feel like we are at the rope drop at Walt Disney, right? So for those of us with young kids who have been there early in the morning, we're just waiting for the rope to drop, and everybody thinks they have a plan, right? Everybody has the best plan, and everybody knows that they have the inside secret on how to get on the rides faster. A couple hours later, everyone's exhausted, kids are crying, mom and dad are not happy.
There's no water.
Exactly, right? I'm spending how many thousands of dollars for my kids to be unhappy?
Sorry.
Right, Peter, go ahead.
I said it's a great example. Sorry.
No, thank
I
you.
didn't mean to
Excellent.
interrupt. It's a great example.
I've been there.
No, thank you, Peter and Vyette, right? So that to me, it seems like that's what we're all doing, right? Everyone says they have a playbook, they know exactly how to get on the rides. And then we go, you know what? Like Harry said, we need the governance in place. We need the systems in place. We need the education in place, right? So when I get in a room, I can sometimes be anticlimactic and I'll be like, guys, you know what? Let's take the oohs and the ahs out of the AI on this and let's focus on that customer. Let's focus on that use case. Let's focus on that problem. And I think all of you made this point in slightly unique and very different ways, which is make it such that people are comfortable saying, you know what, I don't understand what that means, right? I can tell you about a conversation I had with the CEO of a business unit about 2 years ago, and it was a beautiful conversation, right? about 15 minutes into the conversation, it's like, I'm not getting the vibe, right? So finally I was like, you know what, guys, this is off the record. And one of the executives on her team, I said, can I admit something? I don't know this, right? I was talking about some concepts around AI, and I said, look, I don't know this. That vulnerability of saying I don't know opened the door for the next 45 minutes for the team being open to saying, I don't know about this. Let's learn about hallucinations and explainability. Let's learn about some of the math behind it. Let's understand some of this. So when you take seasoned executives who've been the best of the best in their game for 20, 30, 40 plus years, and you put them in a room and this is probably the first time they're seeing a math equation after 50 years, that can be pretty scary. That can be pretty intimidating, right? So how do you, like Harry and Vyette and Peter said, how do you create the conditions so that everybody can be that explorer again, that builder again, and drop the oohs and ahs so that the oohs and ahs will be there. Believe me, it'll be there once the product is launched. But let's not start with and be stuck with the oohs and ahs. So I'll pause with that and I'll pass it back to you, Ahmed.
Yeah, it's just, you're right. It's really about creating that safe environment to make mistakes and learn together because the technology is
100%.
changing so quickly, right? So cross-functionally, people work at different speeds. You know, they need to see visual diagrams, or they're more like data-driven, or they need to see a prompt. But you're really kind of trying to find a way where people feel comfortable saying, hey, I don't know how to do prompt engineering. I know what to ask. What persona should I be if I'm a risk manager or I'm in strategy? What prompt should I be using that are both compliant but also make me more productive? So, you know, there's that kind of like enterprise need to kind of really help provide some of the guardrails, but also let the creativity and let the like have there be a safe space, right, to make mistakes
100%.
and learn together. I think is key. And I think again, echoing top down, across, sideways, cross functionally, industry experts, panels like this. I really think it's such a wonderful time, complex, but wonderful, exciting time to be in right now in this area because it's like being a little kid again, right? You're like you're learning something new constantly. You're like, hang on a second, you know, it's like it's really quite amazing what can come out. Yeah, I think I've become like even more childlike, I suppose, with you know with when I try out new tools because it's just exciting, I think.
If I may, I'll just add something very quickly
Oh,
what you just said, right? So I have two kids, one's in college and the other is in middle school. So about a year ago, I introduced my middle schooler to AI, right? He just crossed 10 or 11, right? I can tell you stuff that he's finding out and teaching that I go, oh, I'm going to take this back to some of the mentoring work that I'm doing because it's that intellectual curiosity with which he's going, you know what, I can actually get my assignments done a lot faster now. Now, the father in me goes, this assignment is not for ChatGPT, this assignment is for you. But then I've learned from him or from what he said over the last few months that, look, I'm not actually asking you to give me the answer. I'm asking you to explain to me how it came up with the answer. Now,
Yeah.
you and I would call that explainability at a very simplistic level. But again, this is a kid that has not understood anything about AI or the machine or the math. But because he has the tools in front of him and the freedom to explore, and there's no upper management looking at him, evaluating him through the lens of, whatever, right? He's found the boundaries and he's gone beyond that. So as a father and as a practitioner in this space, I look at that with like both awe and amazement. And I go, wow, that's the generation that's truly, with no disrespect to any of us on this call here, that's the generation that's truly going to take full advantage of this because they have no orthodoxies, they have no barriers, they have no fears, right? And I can't wait to see what all of our next generations end up doing with the power that I sometimes tell them it's our generation that built it, it's your generation that's going to maximize it.
Yeah, but I completely agree with that take, to be honest. I feel like in every sort of next generation, there's always a tool that, of course, the previous generation wished that they had. And I feel, of course, AI is always going to be one of them, right? It's always just only going to get better. So I completely understand from that perspective. And yeah, no, fair enough. And leading on from that, I was going to ask, in general, maybe I'll start with sort of Peter in this case, but what financial domains or specifically financial areas have you seen the sort of the biggest impact or the strongest impact so from AI in general to date? Like personally, I've seen, because of course I work on sort of contract basis, I've seen fraud and governance being impacted crazily. That's one of the biggest things in financial services and banks. I just wanted to see if, of course, other people had the same thought, or maybe different ones.
Yeah, no, it's another great question. So I think we talked about it a little earlier today, client onboarding, and when I mentioned that, that's an area ripe for friction. It has many components. It's trying to limit fraud and risk and anti-money laundering and bringing the wrong actors onto a platform. So that's been a big focus area. Many firms that I consult for, that's where they start their journey. We got to fix our client onboarding problems. So I think that's a big area of focus. I'm interested to see what the rest of the panel says on this, but I think pivoting to another area that is near and dear to my heart, because I was a financial advisor, and financial service advice and wealth management is kind of like my little pet peeve project. I would say in that arena, a little history backdrop is important here. Many may know on the call and so forth, but advisors are aging out. There's going to be advisors that are retiring en masse. There's an intergenerational transfer of wealth happening where trillions of dollars will move from generation to generation to generation, from the boomers to my generation and downward. So there's money in play. So I think what firms in the wealth management space need to do is do more with less, right? So driving efficiency, driving advisors that it can do more with less, bigger books of business that are more automated. We went through the cycle of robotic advice. I'm sure everybody has some familiarity with robotic advice, and that was years ago when that journey started. But that's where I see firms really doubling down on things like, how do we use AI, either proprietary or otherwise, to do things like asset allocation remodeling, right? Rebalancing a portfolio to make sure that you're within your risk tolerance, that you're not going to get any fines, that you're not drifting into assets that clients have agreed to be part of your asset advisory aspect of your business. So that's one area. And then I think it's, there's going to be a human in the loop we talked about before. So you'll have, the idea is to have all these portfolios come to some lesser human intervention before it's automatically just done, to say, yeah, I agree with that change. And we're talking about a book of business, like the use cases. Hey, I'm an advisor for a bunch of different clients, right? I've got to manage all these portfolios. I don't have the time to sit there and do all this like manually anymore, right? Especially as I grow my book of business. So I think those are two areas of focus: client onboarding and asset allocation within wealth.
Yeah, fair enough. I completely understand from that perspective. And just as sort of a follow-up in regards to that, how have you seen sort of obviously like client onboarding and sort of in general fraud and sort of all the sectors that you sort of mentioned that overlap with this? How have you seen them sort of evolve in general with the integration of sort of like machine learning and sort of AI in general, or generative AI in general?
Yeah, I think the challenge is, right, you have to get beyond the pilot phase. And, we talked about this before, right? Once you start getting, pilots and POCs off the ground, right, it's really how do we go into production with that? It's right. So how do we efficiency and how do we like drive that to production? And I think the big catalyst to get there are the data, which we talked about before, making sure that that's like we have the right data at the right time. And then also getting people to trust, like in the example of pilots around the asset allocation. Listen, that's a really hot topic for people. They don't want to give up control of having that ability to do their asset up. That's the secret sauce, so to speak. So when you automate that, there's sort of like that balance of like, human versus robot taking over. So that's the other aspect, is like understanding, letting advisors in this example know that, hey, you're not being replaced, you're being supplemented to help you drive that out for clients, right? And that's where I'm seeing a lot of that happening right now. And some of the stuff is in production, but I would say that across my continuum of large banks, small banks, regional banks, insurance companies that have wealth management arms, everybody's looking at that as well as next best action, right? It's like when I sit down as an advisor, a day in a life, I want to come into my cockpit in the morning with my coffee and know the 10 things I need to focus on. And that's where AI is helping them drive that journey too. We call it next best action. When I was at Morgan, we were doing this in 2015. It's 10 years later. And it's really about giving the person the time and moment and what should I choreograph my day on, right? And that's another area of focus, is next best action, I would say, to build on what I said earlier. Make sense?
Enough. Yeah, it definitely does make sense. You explained it quite well. But thank you for that. What about you, Harry? How do you feel that in general, maybe where have you seen the sort of the most impact within sort of financial domains, maybe maybe in analytics or anything that you sort of come across in general? And have you seen that evolve in general with, of course, new implementation and integration of sort of machine learning and generative AI in general?
Okay, maybe I answer the last question first about how the integration the AI, ML, and Gen AI together. So one thing is I actually this actually what my team's currently working on. So actually we integrate the AI ML model, the traditional type, and also the Gen AI model into our platform, and the core foundation model and the core for our like the core for our Gen AI platform. So that means when you really in order to improve the productivity and also do a lot of autonomy, you have to have all the three scalar. You have to have something you can control for computational calculation, but in the meantime, you need to have foundation model to help you for the integration for those agents to build. So you have to have everything together. So that means you have to appropriately design, appropriately based on involved knowledge to connect all that together. So and then for the first question about what's the impact for my observation for the financial services and also the cross board. So actually, there is the first thing is we need to start with some like people say is working on some operational type of things. So what I mean is operational type of thing is some like repetitive and also kind of like a low hanging fruit, but the low hanging fruit is based on the people's work, right? A lot of the people's work on that, and also sometimes because of human work on that, we can make more mistake than the machine. So those types of things, for example, like you do some like convert some unstructured data to structured data for some meaningful insight. So you need to build some like agentic AI platform in order to convert like a contract and receive all those types of things from unstructured data to the structured data for the people to use. Those type of things you can looking for. Another type of things is actually just as earlier Peter mentioned, to outsource always into India, right? Like a call center stuff, right? But the call center stuff is or otherwise some like collection call or otherwise from fraud and fraud identify fraud and do the action. So for the old way, maybe you have a threshold for certain fraud. If it's smaller than certain type of threshold, you don't want to touch that. But with an agent, you can touch that because you don't use an agent to do that to the deep dive, and then you can help then FT you can help to make a decision. Yeah.
Last sort of opinion in regards to this specific topic.
Yeah, I'll just take off from where I think Peter made some fantastic points, right, around in the examples he was talking about in the advisory space, right? Again, I feel like he and I might be clones. Maybe I'm his bot or he's my bot. I have no idea, right? I feel like we were in the same boat. We just didn't know we were there together. I want to extend that thread that Peter you started, right, which is I urge us to think about this, whether as practitioners or advisors to companies and or even adopters, right? That we as human beings are disintermediating ourselves, one use case, one project, one problem at a time. That is a reality. That is a reality. There is no ways around it. Let's recognize that. Let's respect that, but not get paranoid about it. The question then becomes, what do we do with our universe, God, whatever given intellectual ability, capacity, and humanity? Are we going to extend ourselves? Are we going to expand ourselves? Are we going to learn new skills? Are we going to upskill ourselves? Are we going to create new kinds of value? I think to me, that's the secret sauce that's going to really separate the phenomenally successful adopters from those that might look like they've done a lot, but haven't really broken from the pack, right? So to me, it's that tension. How do you balance the tension between the creativity, the excitement, the passion, the energy, and a fundamental reality that we are disintermediating ourselves as currently defined, right? With that caveat, right? As currently defined, if we can navigate that tension and do it in a creative, constructive way, with empathy, humanity, and touch, then the technology is going to be serving us. If not, then we are serving the technology, pretty much like how we hop on a plane and say, hey, I trust in God and the pilot and this piece of technology that's going to take me there, right? So I don't know. I'm just glad I'm in the fourth quarter of my career.
Yeah.
But I do hope that our kids and their generations and beyond will truly see it as a case where the humans are driving the technology rather than technology driving the humans.
I just wanted one more sort of follow-up question in regards to sort of both your opinion, Via and Sri. More so of where do you see sort of like where do you see the strategic direction for our sort of sectors that we work in financial services in general? Where do you think the sort of emerging AI possibilities will push our sector? Where do you think it will go? Where do you see the sort of, well, of course you can't really say end all be all, but where do you see the going towards? We'll start with you, Vyette, because you have an opportunity in the.
Yeah, no, I think you know we're on the journey, right? So we're learning and we're growing, but I think the winners will be the ones that clean up the data, own the data, and are able to monetize the data, but also create a governance maturity, right? So organizations that are able to create cross-functional teams that are able to create those guardrails, right, to make us human, to give us that critical thinking. Those are, I think, are going to be the areas that are going to push and be the differentiator for companies, but also for humanity, right? Like having that critical thinking, having that empathy, like eliminating those biases, thinking about how's the technology being used and what is the result, and then like evaluating that and then adjusting it, right? Based on our principles, our values, what's important to us. I think that's going to be the most complicated part of how we win, I think, as a people and a humanity in different, not even just within financial services, but also just as human beings, right? As we interact with such quick change, I think, and how kids are learning so quickly, right? So providing those guardrails for them, but also not eliminating the creativity, right? So I think it's really about like diversity of thought, like with some sort of coaching and retrospective review of like how things are going, postmortems, so that we're learning and continuing on that learning the learning path, that constant learning path that we all are on. So that's how I think of it. I think about it. It's really like, how do we govern it so that the technology is not leading us and we're leading it as like the human brain, I hope that makes sense.
No, it does make sense in that regard. I completely understand it from perspective. What about you, Sri? What do you think?
I'd keep it simple and I'll echo what we had said, right? I would be excited about the destination, but I would be very calm and stable and structured about how we get there, right? It's when you mix the two up or you pivot it the other way around that you will run into issues, right? So I'll end with this Walt Disney example, right? You can be, and you should be absolutely excited about going and seeing Mickey, Minnie, and all the other characters, and the kids should be too. But when you're in that car and you're driving down the highway, you better follow the rules of the road, right? Make sure that you're safe, you're secure, etc. So if that can be replicated, then I think organizations can truly unlock that value. And again, we're going to make mistakes. We're absolutely going to make mistakes, right? We're going to learn along the way. So the other side of that same coin is the cultures that allow you literally to fail and say, I've learned something from it, so that both individually and as a team and organizationally, you are better off, I think are the ones that are going to succeed. The ones that penalize and or punish you for learning are absolutely going to fall off the cliff, right? Like you can literally you will see them fall off the cliff faster than you say go, because those are the organizations that do not create the conditions for us as humans to say, I don't know if I understand that. I'd love to learn more. You know what? We made these assumptions that didn't turn out to be true. These guardrails that we put in place actually are not working, right? Those are the kinds of organizations that I think in the long run are going to be much, much more trusted, valued, and valuable. And the ones that don't will be, our kids will be reading about it in history books as firms that once existed and dominated our industries, but they don't exist anymore.
No, fair enough. I completely agree from that perspective. It's no, it's more so all about sort of the journey and how you sort of keep safeguarded within the process of implementing AI in general, right? It's a new thing, even though it's been sort of been used for a bit of a while now, it's still new, so it's still developing. So I completely understand it from that perspective. And yeah, no, I appreciate everyone's thought, of course, in this case. I understand that Peter and Harry had to sort of leave. Time constraint in the financial services industry, right? In consulting, what can you expect? But yeah, I'm happy to, of course, host sort of a next maybe part two with you guys, sort of follow this up. But in general, I definitely feel like everyone gave some great takeaways and some great points in general. Definitely about Disneyland, but it's definitely very
Time to pay a visit there, right?
it's
Yeah, you
definitely
gotta
a
go.
memorable
Yep.
it's a memorable quote, and I might
Yeah.
I might just
I
remember
have to
that.
say, with the Connecticut roads that have very funny intersections, like we want people to follow through, like the rules of the road. I don't want any AI like on these crazy intersections right now, right?
Keep it
Um,
human. Keep it human.
yeah, exactly. Keep it
Yeah.
human, and I think that's the balance, right? It really is, and also have fun with it. Like have fun with it. I think that's the other thing as well. Like it's serious, but it's fun as well, right? So,
Very well said. Very well
experiment,
said.
experiment, enjoy,
No, I
We're
completely
lucky to
agree.
be in space.
No, it's true. It's true. We definitely are lucky to sort of experience it. But yeah, it's been great to have you all. I thank, of course, you, Sri, Via, and sort of Harry, and of course Peter himself. And we'll definitely, of course, make sure to stay connected up post session, and of course collaborate in the future and sort of discuss maybe a follow up discussion in maybe our next parts within our live series. And yeah,
Awesome.
thank
I think
you,
that
thank you
Thank you
everyone for
much.
watching, and take care.
take care.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Lovely to
Bye,
meet you.
Vyette. Bye, man.
Bye.
Likewise. Cheers. Bye.